So Gina has a social studies project that asks the students to write an essay that argues, so persuasive essay, for the passing or repealing of a particular law. So Gina gets to pick any law in the world and argue whether or not we should have it. So she decides to free write on the topic of seatbelt laws and composes the following. I want to pause already. Notice that it says free write. That means it's a pre-writing technique. This is not her essay. This is just her coming up with ideas. Remember that free writing is the same thing as brainstorming, as doing the bubbles. It is just doing it in sentence form. So it angers me that so many of my friends just laugh off things like seatbelt laws. They say it's nobody's business whether they wear them or not. They make me feel like I'm some goody-goody when I tell them to put one on, but I know what can happen to people. I saw how my neighbor's life was ruined, and it's not just a personal decision. The cost of medical bills and the loss of someone's abilities hurts us all. I know that sometimes government regulations go overboard, but I don't think this is one of those times. So you have this free writing will help Gina to do which of the following. So this one is asking for the good one, not the bad one. A lot of the other ones have said, except which one? This one wants the good one. Is it going to develop an introduction, body, and conclusion for her article? No, because these ideas are sort of all over the place, as they should be on a pre-writing. So definitely not intro and conclusion. Examine the opposing viewpoint. Well, she does say up here, they say it's nobody's business whether they wear them or not. So she's got that opposing viewpoint. She hasn't really gotten any clearer on her own ideas because she's just kind of said them all equally, and she doesn't have any factual evidence. Yes, she talks about her neighbor's life, but she doesn't, we don't know that she actually knows every single detail and read this guy's medical record. So this one is going to be G. She examines the opposing viewpoint because she says they say it's nobody's business whether they wear them or not. Like I said in the other videos, if you then scroll to the actual essay, let's see, where does she say that? Somewhere in there, anyway, she says, like, some people say that it's an invasion of privacy. So she does add that in there. She's got that opposing viewpoint. Now she begins drafting. So now she has a rough draft. This is a real paragraph. One night recently, my neighbor had an accident on the way to his girlfriend's house. The accident caused permanent brain damage. If he had been wearing a safety belt, his injuries would have been much less severe. This piece of a first draft is effective at which of the following writing techniques? When I say the writing techniques, I didn't give you guys that handout for nothing. This is the one that's on rhetorical strategies. Which is the logos, ethos, pathos handout. And remember, logos is giving logical facts. Ethos is being professional and honest. Pathos is trying to draw in emotion. So we have catching the reader's attention with real life detail about young people in automobile accident, engaging the reader with action and suspense. I mean, there's not really any action. It just says, yeah, he had an accident. Tells you right from the start. No suspense. Establishing credibility with research citations. Remember, the citations are when I talked about, like, you have to have the author's last name. There's none of that. Offering varying viewpoints for readers to make up their own minds. Nope, this is all talking about her side. But it is attention grabbing. So that's your answer to 21. It's going for that emotional appeal. Oops, I didn't mean to make that a comment. Highlighter. There we go. No, come on. There. 22. Which of the following sentences would be least useful for Gina to add to this part of her draft for provoking interest in her readers? So this is asking about supporting details. If you haven't noticed, a whole lot of these are about major and minor details, main ideas. So we have when she saw him later, so you're trying to provoke interest. When she saw him later, he was barely clinging to life after sustaining a head injury. Doctors say he is unlikely to be able to return to work or even to live independently. He was taken to the nearest hospital, which was about 10 minutes away. One decision that might not have seemed important at the time changed his life. And you want the one that is least useful for provoking interest. So, which one has the least amount of emotion? Because remember, I told you, if you want people to get into your cause, you have to make them typically angry or sad or afraid. So, which one of these has the least emotion? That's That's this one. It's just a fact. That's the hospital he went to. That's not going to give any interest. That's not pulling any emotions. That's just a fact. That's where he went. Then we have the first part of the actual rough draft. So let me zoom out and you can pause. Okay. Gina's argument in paragraph 4 is most likely meant to appeal to. So this one is asking about audience. So who would most likely be reading this based on the information she gives? Paragraph 4. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. The universal use of safety belts would save lives and reduce injuries, and it would save society a great deal of money. Traffic accidents cost an estimated $8.5 billion per year. Universal safety belt use could reduce this amount substantially by lowering the cost. Money. Medical professionals, yeah, I mean, they also use money, but there's nothing in there that screams, I am writing to a doctor. Parents, I mean, yeah, there was like one thing about insurance, but it didn't talk about teens driving. Lawyers, I mean, it's mostly about like medical bills. And let's see, there's nothing about like suing people, but it's all about money. And who spends money? Consumers. How is sentence 12 best revised to provide a better transition? So this one tells you immediately what subject it's looking for, but it's a transition between paragraphs. So how do you connect the end of one paragraph to the beginning of the next paragraph? Sentence 12 is connecting these last two. So this one is all about injuries. This one is all about money. This one it ends with, in addition, NHTSA surveys have found that safety belt use is substantially higher in areas that have laws mandating the use of such belts. So it's good for safety and the facts show it. The universal use of safety belts would save lives and reduce injuries. So they're saying here, hey, remember how I just talked about safety? And it would save society a great deal of money. Now I'm going to talk about money. So that's what a good transition does between paragraphs. It mentions the previous paragraph, but then focuses on the new one. Where'd it go? Oh, I scrolled past it. So how would it be best revised? The universal use of safety belts would save lives and reduce injuries. It would also save society a great deal of money. Here, that's grammatically correct. You got a period separating two complete sentences. The universal use of safety belts would not only save lives and reduce injuries, but would also save society a great deal of money. Here you have some issues going on with the comma here, having the complete sentence on both sides of a coordinating conjunction. That shouldn't have that comma. Not only save lives, but would, I don't know, honestly, I feel like that comma sounds better there, but a rule is a rule. And that's why I say don't go by that default. Well, what do you always put a comma wherever you hear a pause? Because that comma is not supposed to be there, even if you pause. The universal use of safety belts would save lives, reduce injuries, and save society a great deal of money. Here, it sounds like it's all one big idea. It sounds like you're going to continue to talk about these things. It's not showing me that transition, that this is now going to be your main focus. It's not going to be H. It's not going to be G. Not only saving lives and reducing injuries, the universal use of safety belts also saves society a great deal of money. Here you have the opening phrase here, not only saving lives and reducing injuries. Yes, that is going to harken back to the last one, but the grammar doesn't line up with then saying the universal use of safety belts also saves society a great. It would need to be like, not only does it save lives, you have saving and saves here. You need your verbs to match. So here, your answer is going to be F, because that's the only, dang it, that's the only, oh my goodness. Is it going to let me? Yes, it lets me go back. Thank goodness. That's the only one that is grammatically correct and makes sense. 25. Which of the following methods of persuasion does Gina use most effectively in this part of the draft? Sorry, the little celebration thing is about to start in the hallway, and I'm hearing a bunch of people talking and getting distracted. So which of the methods of persuasion? This is talking about the logos, pathos, ethos thing. So this one, I'll make a comment for each of those. This one, is it best that she's using logos, which means logic stuff, because that's what facts and figures are. Testimony from experts, that's going to be ethos, because it's making her look professional by citing other professionals. Emotional appeal, that's going to be pathos, because it just flat out says emotional appeal. And then criticism of the opposing viewpoint, that is a typo, but this is also going to be ethos, because it is saying, look, she can acknowledge that there is another side. So in this part of the draft, going back to this whole chunk, what is she doing? Well, the main thing she does throughout is give those facts. This is how much money. This is how much percent. This is how many lives. So the answer to that one is going to be that she uses the facts and figures. Now, she does all these other things, either in this part of the essay or in the other, but this is the one that she uses the most in this particular part of the draft. Okay, zoom out a little so you can read the second half. All right, zooming back in. In sentence 17, in sentence 17, how is citing their right to civil liberties correctly written? Sentence 17, it's a grammar question. Citing their right to civil liberties, they feel the government has no right to impose its will on people in a situation, blah, 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 blah. The thing you want to pay attention to here, I'm going to try and talk quickly for the rest of this, is the verb tense again. They feel that the government, that is written in present tense. Citing their right to civil liberties is written in present tense. Whereas down here, they have two of these in past tense, so it's not that. Their right to civil liberties, well, it doesn't tell me that they're citing it. So this one is correct as it is. 27, in sentence 21, how is there is correctly written? If everyone would buckle up, there is a general reduction in motor vehicle insurance. It says if everyone would do it, so that is talking about the future and this imagined future. There is present tense. So you need to do the one that is in future tense, and that's this one. There would be. There are, present tense, there was, past tense, already wasn't correct, so you want the future tense one. Cannot stress enough how important it is to pay attention to the verbs on these grammar ones. In sentence 22, how is it correctly written? Let's go back up to this one. In addition, society suffered the loss of human productivity and potential as the result of motorists who did not wear safety belts. So here, She had just finished telling me about the ways so public funds have to be used, all the ways that it has been an issue when people have gotten in accidents in the past. So, in addition, society suffered the loss of human productivity and potential as the result of motorists who did not wear safety belts. Look at the rest of it. You see, okay, this is in present tense saying the neighbor illustrates how society, his hospital bills have been so high. So you got present tense and past tense. They will be exhausted. You got future tense, unable to care for himself, the family cannot afford. You got present tense, and he soon will be placed. You got future tense. So this one, not going to come down to verbs because you got a little bit of everything in there. Instead, this one is going to be about content and modifiers. In addition, society has suffered the loss of human productivity and potential as the result of motorists who do not wear safety belts. In addition, society suffers the loss of human productivity and potential as the result of motorists who do not wear safety belts. In addition, society suffered the loss of human productivity and potential as the result of motorists who are not wearing safety belts, or as it is. So, if you are talking about all of the things that happen throughout time, you're going to want this one because it's covering past tense, they didn't wear it. It's covering present tense, that the loss is still happening. And it's covering future tense of the potential. So I lied, it is actually coming down to verb tense. That's what happens when you rush. Okay, how is sentence 25 correctly written? This one comes down to commas. He is unable to care for himself, and the family cannot afford to pay for private nursing care. Unable to care for himself, unable to afford to pay. That one's missing a subject. It's not that one. The family is unable to care for himself and cannot afford. This one comes down to the comma. They tend to be a big fan of the commas and the fanboys. Cannot afford to pay for private nursing care is not a complete sentence, which means there shouldn't be that comma. The family cannot afford to pay for private nursing care is a complete sentence, so it does need the comma. So this is your correct answer. And then lastly, another verb tense question. In sentence 30, how is to write to correctly written? I strongly urge you to write to your state legislators to voice your support for passage of a law mandating the use of safety belts. So I strongly urge you to written to writing to have written to. So to written to, that just doesn't make sense at all. To writing to doesn't make sense at all. I encourage you to have written to. That makes sense, but she's encouraging them to do something in the future. So to say it happened in the past would not make sense. So the answer there is J. So that wraps up going through the final exam. I want to emphasize the things you most want to pay attention to are verb tense and making sure that you pay attention to the rest of the paragraph and the rest of the sentence when you come across those questions, and then focus and development. So that's the main ideas and the supporting details. Grammar overall needs to be studied, but I would really focus on punctuation and verbs.